I came across this story, and I was struck by how carefully it reveals something we rarely talk about: the quiet collision between joy and grief. Let me share it with you, because this is the kind of narrative that asks us to hold two unbearable truths at once. There's a man, 30 years old, who's been with his girlfriend for 3 years. They'd reached that point where the relationship wasn't just working, it had grown into something they both wanted to make permanent. In June, they started talking seriously about marriage. Not the vague, someday kind of talk, but the kind with dates and details. He told her he wanted to propose by the end of the year. She told him she wanted an October wedding, specifically October 19th of the following year. She needed at least a year to plan, she said, which meant the engagement had to happen soon. And so he began to plan. Over the following months, she dropped hints. Not subtle ones either. She was waiting for the ring, eager to start planning, ready to move forward. He knew she was getting impatient, but he had a vision for how this should unfold. They had a trip to the mountains scheduled for mid-October. The 19th was a Friday, the same date as their future wedding, and it was the day they'd planned to leave for the trip. The timing felt perfect. He could propose on that Friday, and they could celebrate the entire weekend in the mountains. But notice what he did before any of this. He asked her father for his blessing. Back in August, 2 months before the planned proposal, he sat down with her father and explained the whole plan. And her father was thrilled. He brought it up multiple times when they came over for dinner the week before the trip. He was excited to see this unfold. Then Friday night arrived, and with it, devastating news. Her father had a heart attack. They rushed to the hospital. He was alive when they arrived, but he didn't make it through the night. This is where the story shifts into something almost unbearable. The man is heartbroken. He'd grown close to her father over the years. His girlfriend is shattered. No one saw this coming. And beneath all of that grief, there's this other layer he's carrying alone. Her father knew about the proposal. He was excited about it. He gave his blessing, and now he's gone. Saturday was a blur. Sunday, they began helping her mother and brother with funeral arrangements. They were grieving together, leaning on each other, getting through it moment by moment. Until Monday night. Monday night, she turned on him. She told him he was a monster for not proposing by now. She said her father would never see her ring, never hear the story of how it happened. And beneath that anger, he could see what was really breaking her. The knowledge that her father wouldn't be at the wedding, that he wouldn't walk her down the aisle, wouldn't give a toast, wouldn't be there for any of it. And here's what makes this moment so complex. She's right to be devastated. Her grief is real and valid, but she's also directing it at him, blaming him for something he couldn't have possibly controlled. He writes that he wishes he could have foreseen this, that he would have proposed months ago if he'd known. But how could he have known? He had a plan, a good plan. A plan her father knew about and celebrated, and now that plan has collided with unimaginable loss, and suddenly the timing that felt so perfect feels cruel. She slept on the couch that night. She didn't want him near her, and he's left holding this ring, holding this grief, holding the knowledge that her father gave his blessing, and not knowing how to bridge the gap between them. The question he's asking is simple. What do I do? Part of him wants to show her the ring immediately, to tell her that her father knew, that they had his blessing, that this was already in motion before he died. But another part of him knows that proposing right now, in the immediate aftermath of loss, might feel wrong, might feel rushed, might not be what she needs. This is the moment where we see the real architecture of the dilemma. He's trying to honor both her grief and their future. He's trying to figure out how to be what she needs when what she needs keeps shifting beneath the weight of her pain. And then someone in the comments offers something worth considering. They suggest he sit down with her and say this: "I had been speaking with your father about a plan for this weekend. I was going to propose while we were in the mountains, and he loved the idea. He knew the whole plan. He even told your mom. I know this isn't the perfect time for a proposal, so would you like to see the ring, or shall we wait a little longer?" Notice the craft in that response. It doesn't force a proposal. It doesn't demand she set aside her grief to celebrate. It simply reveals the truth that her father was part of this, that he knew, that his blessing was already given. And then it offers her agency. It lets her decide what she needs. Because here's what this story is really about. It's about the impossible task of honoring two timelines that were never supposed to intersect. The timeline of a proposal, which should be joyful and anticipatory, and the timeline of grief, which is raw and unpredictable and doesn't follow anyone's plan. He couldn't have known this would happen. He made a plan that honored her father, that included him, that would have unfolded beautifully if the world had cooperated. But the world didn't cooperate. And now, he's left trying to figure out how to hold space for both the ring in his pocket and the unbearable absence in her life. And her anger, her calling him a monster, that's grief talking. Grief doesn't always land where it should. Sometimes it lands on the people closest to us, the people who are trying to help, because they're the ones who are there to receive it. She's not really angry at him. She's angry at the unfairness of it all. Angry that her father won't be there. Angry that the future they were building has this permanent hole in it now. What strikes me most about this narrative is how it resists easy answers. There's no perfect move here. Proposing immediately might feel tone-deaf. Waiting might feel like withholding comfort she desperately needs. Showing her the ring might bring relief, or it might deepen her grief. There's no way to know until he tries. But what he can do, what the commenter wisely suggests, is lead with truth. Tell her what her father knew. Tell her that he was part of this. Tell her that even though her father won't be at the wedding, he was there for the beginning of it. He gave his blessing, he was excited, he knew, and then let her decide what comes next. Stories like this remind us that life doesn't pause for our plans. That joy and grief aren't separate timelines, they're woven together, sometimes so tightly we can't tell where one ends and the other begins. And the people who navigate that complexity with grace aren't the ones who have all the answers. They're the ones who show up, who tell the truth, who offer what they can, and who let the people they love decide what they need. This is the kind of story that stays with you, not because it has a tidy resolution, but because it asks us to sit with the discomfort of not knowing, of trying to do right by someone we love when the circumstances make every choice feel inadequate. If you've ever been in a moment like this, where you wanted to help but didn't know how, where love and loss tangled together in ways you couldn't untangle, you know how heavy this kind of uncertainty feels. And if this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of something you've carried, or if you just want to see how others have navigated these impossible moments, subscribe. Because we'll keep sharing these stories, the ones that honor the complexity of being human. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Title suggestions primary. I had the ring and his blessing, then everything fell apart alt 1. He was going to propose this weekend, until her father died alt 2. She called me a monster for not proposing, but I had the ring all along alt 3. The proposal that never happened, and the grief that changed everything.